Good evening. My name is Christopher Davon Burton, and this presentation will be on group work in the social work practice. So, what is group work? Group work is an effective method within the social work practice. It could be a form of intervention, it could be a form of therapy, it could just be a form of support, or there could be an overarching goal. Um, So social workers, when we're leading a group, do we want to have a head person, and that person's goal is create a nice, safe environment that encourages individuals to grow and encourages individuals to open up and strengthens individuals' belief in themselves and belief that they can improve their situation. So in this presentation, you'll learn a little bit about that. You will learn about the different types of groups, different techniques when working with groups, what type of ethics should you have in mind, um, using evidence-informed practice, and then it'll end with a real life example of what a group would look like. So, what is the purpose of group work? Group work is a method of helping multiple individuals address common concerns together. That's a key element is that group work takes place, obviously multiple people with somewhat similar background or similar situations that's calling them, to be together. And then you have a facilitator, and everyone in the group is there to learn together. And even though the facilitator is there, he's not, or they're not necessarily a teacher. They're just there to, lead the group, direct the group, and to create a supportive environment. Now, group, it could work in, in schools, hospitals, shelters, mental health facilities, correctional facilities, or community groups. Groups, they also help people develop coping skills, and improve relationships, and improve self-awareness and practice new behaviors. Some of the goals of group are to improve communication, obviously because you're in a group of people, working with a group of people, reduce isolation, empower individuals, promote growth, increase support, teach new skills, but and teach new skills to members. So, that's the purpose of group. I wouldn't say necessarily a team, but you are there to grow as a group, to learn from each other, bounce ideas off each other, and relay resources to each other. So yeah, that is the purpose of group. Some of the types of group that exist are support groups. Members encourage one another through shared experiences. An example would be grief groups, cancer support groups, traumatic brain injury support groups. Just anything where individuals may be going through a similar experience, and the goal is just to support each other and to relate common experiences, relate what you learned about getting through the trauma or whatever you're going through. Yeah, and it's just to provide being a helping hand for one another. Then another example is psychoeducational groups. This is to teach information and skills. Example of parenting classes or anger management. Now, psychoeducational groups will most likely be led by a licensed facilitator, because with this you have to know the science of what's going on, and you use that science or that research to advise clients how to go about their situation. So, from the example is parenting classes. Say someone they need better mechanisms for disciplining their child. You're going to teach research proven and evidence based ways to improve discipline. If it is something mental, such as anger issues, bipolar disorder, um, something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say addiction, because I feel like that would lean towards mutual aid groups or even a task group. But anything like that where you're literally educating them about, um, research proven processes that will improve their situation or that could improve their situation. Now, a task group, this is for when there's a specific goal. It's complete a project, solve a problem, common in agencies and organizations. Now, like I said, this is common in agencies and organizations, but this is when you're trying to complete a specific goal. This is actually going to be my practice example, but for example, I worked at a homeless shelter, and it was a 30-day shelter. And so there was a group session once a week. And for that, obviously the goal was to attain housing, to move towards that. So anytime where there's everyone is in there and they're trying to get to the same finish line, that's going to be a task group. Next is therapy groups. Focus on emotional healing and behavioral change. Again, this is led by trained clinicians. This is similar to psychoeducational, but this is more you're giving them advice on why they may have certain thought patterns, why they may have certain behaviors, and how they could use different mechanisms to change said behavior or said thought patterns. Helping them process grief, helping them process loss, helping them process childhood trauma or addictive behaviors. That would be a therapy group. Mutual aid group. This will help each other through shared lived experiences. A great example is Alcoholics Anonymous. This is why I said it's a little bit different than a support group. Um, the mutual aid group, like Alcoholics Anonymous, or any type of addiction-based group, is when there's a single, specific experience that they're going through, and you're there for each other. So it's very similar to a support group, um, but slight differences. So now moving on, some techniques for working with groups is first active listening. Active listening is just when you're giving them the full attention. You're not necessarily writing notes. You're just there with them. You're not looking off, and you're um, focused on processing what they're saying rather than coming up with a response or an answer to whatever they have going on. Because a lot of times people aren't coming to group looking for an answer. They're just coming to relay their experiences to people with similar experiences. All right, next is open-ended questions. The biggest thing here is avoid yes or no questions. So rather than being like, did what happened to you make you feel bad? You would say, with what happened to you, how did that make you feel? So you just want to leave it open so that they can give a response on their experience. Then reflective responding. This just shows that you were listening. So if they said, I went to the grocery store and I fell, it's similar, it's simple, but you'd be like, oh, so the other day, or so I heard you say that the other day when you went to the grocery store, you fell. So or something along that, but you just want to let them know that you were listening and that what they're saying makes sense. Next is summarization. Summarization is just when you take a pull or you pull from everything that they said and you um put it together, not in a condescending way, but just in a way that's saying I heard you, and you know I'll process what you said, and perhaps these are some uh, responses for it. And the next is just encouraging participation. You want to invite quieter members to the discussion. Make sure one member does not dominate and promote equal participation. Just like any group, there's going to be different personalities. Some people, they can talk and they can um, go into detail about their experiences. Some people have a harder time opening it up, but you want to make sure that everyone is involved and that it's a balanced situation. So next, when you're going to a group, you want to make sure that you have ethical, or you consider the ethics behind what's going on. First is confidentiality. This would be at the very start. You want to make sure that everyone understands that what is inside the group stays inside the group. The leader has to really set the tone with that to make sure that everyone understands confidentiality, how it works, how long it lasts, and just how that will work with the group. Next is maintaining professional boundaries. Now, this is just like we're here, if we're there for therapy, we're there for therapy. If we're there for psychoeducation, we're there for psychoeducation. We're not gonna go join a run club together, a book club together. Um, and that also goes into avoid dual relationships, to where you don't want to be too close with your clients outside of where y'all are working at. Um, Obviously, if you see someone in the grocery store, you can't, avoid that. But you don't want to necessarily be in the same social circles as one of your clients or someone that's in the group. And then also be consistent and fair with everyone. You don't want to pick favorites out the group. You don't want to show too much pity towards one person and then be hard on another client. You want to kind of be pretty unbiased towards everybody. And then informed consent. You just want to make sure that everyone understands what's going on inside the group. Everyone should know why they're there. Everyone should know what they expect, the risks, the benefits, and confidentiality. So, yeah, you just want to make sure everyone is clear on their goals. People understand that as much as things are confidential, we are humans and you're around other humans. So, as you share things, you are aware of that. They should know what they're getting from it, and, just go over, make sure that they understand what the group is. So continuing with ethical considerations, first is cultural humility. You want to make sure that everyone, who may be from a different background than you, the facilitator, you want to make sure that their culture, they feel represented, they feel open to be themselves and express themselves. You don't want to have the idea that your culture or whatever the dominant culture is there is better than any other individual cultures who may be a part of the group. You don't want to make anyone feel outcasted because of their culture, and you also don't want to be too braggadocious or too feeling that the way that you do things or the way that you were taught to do things is the right way to do things. You're gonna meet people from all sorts of communities, all sorts of backgrounds, traditions, and you want to create a safe, welcoming environment for all people. Next is group safety. When you're working with your group, you want to make sure that the rules for y'all's group are clear and established. Um, you want to know things to say, what not to say. Some groups, it may be open for group members to give advice or say you should do this. In other situations, it may not be a place and time to tell people or to advise people what they should do and what decisions they should make. So, you just want to, really establish your rules. What type of language is allowed so people don't feel disrespected, things like that. You just want to make sure that everything is very clear. And then, as always, the NASW Code of Ethics, service, social justice, dignity and worth of a person, importance of human relationships, integrity, and competence. I always want to maintain these and make sure that you're holding yourself to a standard as your leading group. Okay, so now is evidence-based practice. What is evidence-based practice? I touched on it before when I was talking about psychoeducation, I believe, yeah. But it's just, I'll go through the PowerPoint. Research evidence, clinical expertise, client preferences, professional judgment, and research shows that effective groups reduce isolation, improve coping skills, increase confidence, support, strengthen support systems, and improve mental health outcomes. So basically what evidence-based practice is you're using research from verified studies, verified, science and research when you're working with your clients. You want to make sure that you're doing what's needed for your clients. That's where client preferences comes in. You don't want to be helping someone with a problem that they don't have. Also, strengths perspective, this is just recognizing that everyone has their own strengths, their own weaknesses, but we want to focus on what the client can do for themselves or what they could do with support. You don't want to do everything for a client. You want to recognize, oh, this person is a good talker. Oh, this person is a good writer. Oh, this person has a strong social circle. You You want to recognize what they do have and teach them how they can use that to improve their situation. For my practice application, I'll be going through it as if I was working with a group at the homeless shelter. This would be considered a task group since there's a specific goal of going from being a family experiencing homelessness to being, a housed family. That's what we want. So the goals, when they come into group, it will be clearly established that you want to increase support and access to resources. Some examples of these can be WIC, SNAPS, Medicaid, CCAP, depending on how young the child is. You'd also want to teach coping skills such as getting regular therapy or breath work. The therapy is big because since this is a group, since it's a task group, it probably has a set date. For example, at the shelter I work at, it's about a 30 to maybe 45, 50 days at the most that you'll be working with the group. Um, yeah, so for coping skills, you want to see if they can get their own private therapy. You want to see some breath work, meditation, going for walks. Do you have an emergency contact? Do you have someone you can talk to when things go bad? You just want to teach them things like this so that they don't cope with bad habits. Life skills. You want to teach skills such as interviewing, resume building, keeping proper documentation such as your resume, job history, social security, birth certificate, whatever you have, you want to make sure they have that in a secure place. Then you also want to teach them budgeting and life skills as they are going from person experiencing homelessness. These may be skills that they're lacking. So when they move into housing, they're going to need these skills in order to maintain their housing and their new situation. Um, and then obviously you want to, when you come into group, you want to create individual timelines for gaining housing based on their situation. So different techniques that would be used inside of this would be active listening, which you listen to each person's individual story and how they came to experience homelessness. You would want to ask open-ended questions so that people can give you their full story and their perspective on what happened. You want to reinforce strengths. Every single person that you work with has a strength, and you want to lean into that for how they can improve their situation. Obviously, you want to redirect conflict. A lot of people are in stressful situations, so you do have to be have a high aptitude for de-escalating different situations. And obviously, you want to end each session by reviewing the progress and identifying one goal for the next meeting. I put that under techniques because that keeps people almost like doing homework, and it gives them an incentive to move forward and to make sure they aren't stagnant. And I don't want to say get too comfortable in the group, but you don't want them to come to rely on the group. You want to make sure that they know that they will be moving out of the group and be self-sufficient once the timeline has passed. So, in conclusion, group work is one of the most powerful interventions because it reminds people that they are not alone. When clients learn from each other while being guided by an ethical and culturally competent facilitator, meaningful change can occur. So group work is an excellent tool and a powerful way of intervention. Um, there's so many different ways that you can go about group, as stated before, and it gives people a support system. Within the group, people are going to make relationships, buddies, friends, partners, because they're going through similar situations. So all of that can be helpful, and then just different experiences that people have. People could say, "Hey, I went here. This resource helped me when I was going through that." It just creates a little bit of continuity between people. People are going through hardship that's always needed. So group is a wonderful tool. It could be a beautiful thing when used correctly. And as social workers, we should strive to be great leaders and great facilitators when working with group. And so, thank you. That was my presentation. I went a little bit over, but thank you.